Right, hi guys. Please let me know if you're here in the chat so that I can give you that point on show my homework. I am going to be giving out a maximum of 3 points per live stream to each student based on what I receive from them. So if I see that you're in my live stream and you've turned up on time, you get a point for turning up to the lesson on time. If you have contributed well in the chat, then I will give you a contribution to the lesson point. And if you have submitted some form of work to me that has shown you have really been working hard on what it is we've been working on, then you get your 3rd point for excellent work or good work. Okay, just pointing out there for those of you who haven't already seen that, because I have already been doing that in the last couple of lessons, but I think some people have missed out on that because they've not been either participating or they've not been sending me any extra work. So okay, so we are continuing this lesson today with our Python turtle. Now, we did last lesson, we were looking at loops and how to create those funky stars and boxes and things like that. This lesson, we will be moving on to task 14 onwards. So looking at using variables in particular. Now, using variables was one of the first things I ever taught you when it came to using Python. So I really hope that this lesson is fairly straightforward for you. But basically this booklet is in a different order to how I would normally teach it, which is fine. I just but it's interesting to see to go back over the basics and to understand how this works and to use these basic ideas in a different way. So what I'd like you to do is just copy this program into Python. Don't forget, if you've got this gap here, you need to make sure your gap is in there properly. You might want to go to jump2.cc/python-new. I will copy that into the chat for you, just so you have somewhere to post things. Okay, and that's just from the last live stream I was doing. So you'd copy this in, copy and then paste. Make sure everything's in there correctly. Obviously, we've got our loop here, and we need some gaps there, some indentations. So we're supposed to run it and describe it, and then explain what you think lines 2 and 3, so that's these 2 lines here of the program, do. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes just to do that. I will be playing music, but if you've got your own music, that's fine. Just don't forget, it's not overly clear when I stop if you've got your own music and you're stopping in the middle of it. So yeah, have a go at task 14. Describe and run it, and then I want you to have a go at task 15 as well. So that asks you what pen color you would like. This should be fairly straightforward for you because you already know how to use int and you already know how to use input. So task 15 should be fairly straightforward for you. You should be able to do that in just a couple of minutes. Okay, off you go. Okay guys, hopefully you've managed to do task 14 and 15. I'm just quickly thought maybe you'd like to have a look at, just going to quickly show you my lovely cat, who is a bit bored listening to me talk to you, but in fact, oh, I haven't added it to the screen, so that's not helpful. There you go, my lovely cat. There you go. Just thought you might want to have a look at that for a moment. But anyway, okay. So, cat aside, we are looking at task 14 and 15 in our in the workbook. So let's look at those. So we've got import turtle, sides equals int, input how many sides would you like, for I in range of sides, turtle pen color red, turtle forward 50, turtle right 30. So I run it and it says, how many sides would you like? And it's got this grey box here. So how many sides would you like? Oh, I think I want 5, thank you. And it's drawn part of a shape. Okay, and it says, and it's got actually 5 parts here. If I run it again, and it asks me how many sides I would like again, okay, I would like 3 sides this time. And this time it's only drawn 3 lines. Okay, if I run it again, maybe I'll draw a lot more this time, 12. And it's drawn our 12-sided shape. So you can see that this is a 12-sided shape normally, but it's only drawing 1 line of the 12-sided shape depending on how many times you've said for it to do. So how does this work? So the program, I would describe it as it asks you how many sides you would like and then draws 1 line for each side that you have asked for, and it asks for this many, and it creates what would be a 12-sided shape if there were at least 12 sides. Okay, and so these 2 lines here, let's go through them. Sides equals int, input how many sides would you like. What is that doing? All that's doing is asking the user how many sides they would like and converting whatever they've said into an integer. Why are we doing that? Well, that's because we can't use this for loop. We can't put a string into a range. It's got to be an integer in here because otherwise it won't be able to count properly. If you're doing any kind of maths or working out calculations of any kind or counting of any sort, then you need to make sure it's an integer because otherwise it won't work. And then for I in range, we are counting where I goes from 0 up to, but not including, the amount of sides that the user has typed in. Yeah, and it's going to make the pen color red, as you can see, going forward by 50, and it's then turning right by 30 degrees. So that's how we're drawing our 12-sided shape, because I think we've established a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, well, oh, not quite. 10-sided shape has 36 angle, but if you kept going, 12-sided shape has 30, so an angle of 30. So we've just gone through and explained that as well. If you've written this down somewhere, I'd be happy to receive whatever you've typed in as a submission on to show my homework, and that will give me something that I can give you a point for. Okay. Then it says change your program so that it now asks you what pen color you would like. You would not need to use the int command as you are not converting the input into an integer. And then explain the changes you made below. So what can we do? Well, actually, I don't think this bit needs to be inside this loop, because otherwise it's just going to keep changing the pen color each time to the same idea. So I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to put it outside the loop instead of inside the loop, because I don't think it's actually very useful there. And we can follow the same structure as we have here to complete this pen color thing. So I can say color, and I can write it however I want, because because this is a variable, right? And I can call that wherever I want. I can call it elephant, I can call it wherever. That's why I've added a U in, because I'm like, right, okay, I want to spell it correctly. But sometimes like that might be a bit confusing for you, so you could just leave it without the U, but I quite like it with the U. Color equals, and I'm going to type in a color. Oh, hang on, no, I'm not. I could say color equals purple, couldn't I? But I don't want to do that. I want to ask the user for their color. So I don't, as it mentioned in the thing here, I don't need to use the int command. So I'm going to do the same thing as I did here, but without the int and without those extra brackets for that. So input, and then instead of how many sides, I'm going to say, what color would you like? Okay. And then how do I then utilize whatever the user's typed in? Easy. I just change this to color. Now don't forget, because we're using a variable name here, we don't want to put it in speech marks, because otherwise it's going to say, what color is color? I've never heard of the color before. So we're going to run this again. It says, how many sides would you like? Okay, I'd like 12, then I can complete my shape. What color would you like? Oh, I don't know, green. Okay, and there we go. I've got a green 12-sided shape there. Okay, so hopefully you were able to do something similar on your versions and be able to kind of create a shape that asks the user for their input as well. All right, moving on. Task 16. Now, you're going to think about changing that program so that it will always draw a complete shape. So on this program, if I typed in 5, oops, I typed it in over here instead of over here. Keep doing that. If I type in 5, and I don't know, purple, not sure I spelled that right, then it only gives me 5 sides. It's not a complete shape. Okay, if I wanted a 5-sided shape, then say a pentagon, when the user types in 5, how can I get them to do that? Now, you'll need to complete this table. Number of sides and the angle the turtle needs to turn. So you might want to look back to this lesson here, task 6, and earlier on as well, and a bit later perhaps. Where are we? Task 16. So let me hide this. How do you work out the angle if you know the number of sides? So what I'd like you to do is create an equation. So angle equals, so remember in our other lesson we talked about being able to make our code more efficient by creating equations. Well, here you go. Here's a place where we've got an equation. So like in maths, on one line I want you to write angle equals, and it will calculate the angle in terms of the amount of sides that there are. Now you might be able to work this out from your use of maths, but if you think back to when we did triangle, how much does that need to turn? 120. So you'd write in here, where's it gone? Task 16. You'd write in here 120. 4 sides turns 90, etc., etc. Yeah. So then try and work out what that angle should be. Once you've done that, I want you to change your program, whatever you've done here. Okay. so that a complete shape is always drawn no matter how many sides the user asks for. And then maybe if you add to a Word document or something, the changes you've made. Right. I'm going to give you a few more minutes to work on that one, task 16 and task 17. Off you go. Okay, please let me know if you've managed to do that. The angle for the amount of sides, I'm going to be asking you to post that in the chat in a moment, but I'm going to give you just a couple more minutes to complete the rest of that, task 16 and 17, so that you've got that angle bit in there as well. Okay, off you go. Okay, so hopefully you've managed to get those done. In response to the question just posted just now, if you think there are people who should be here, that you have their contact details, please get in touch with them and let them know that this is happening, so that they join in and they don't miss out on anything that they would be getting normally in school, because I think it's really useful for everyone to be able to access this kind of stuff even when we're not in school. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to calculate the angle. Could you please post in the chat how you calculate the angle in terms of the amount of sides that there are? So if you know how many sides there are, how do you know what the angle is? So angle equals something about sides. Sides has got to be included in there somewhere. So please let me know, post in the chat. A point on the line for you here if you've managed to communicate, let us know what's going on. What is the angle going to be? Calculating the angle in terms of the sides. If you know how many sides you've got, how do you work out the angle? All right, I'm going to put on another really quick song, and then, ooh, yeah, something about 360 degrees. Yeah, definitely involved there somewhere. That something needs to be replaced with something else. Right, I'm going to give you another 1 minute 36 seconds. Post in the chat, please. Okay, so hopefully you should have worked out, and a lot of you have worked out, that it is 360 divided by the amount of sides that there are. So just to kind of think about how that works and why that works is we can, that's very far away, hang on a second, put that a bit further down. Okay, so just quickly going to show you in front of me. So there's a pen here. So if we've got, as we've just mentioned before, 3 sides is, so 3, I'm just going to say 3s equals 120, 120a for angle, okay? And then, so hang on, we know that s is 3. Hang on, let's work this out mathematically, because I'm sure this is a way of doing it. If we know s equals 3, how do we work out what a is? We go s equals 120 sorry, 100, 120a. Okay, and then we can go, okay, so if we know S is 3, oh, I've not done this correctly, have I? I'm sure some of you are laughing at me now at my bad maths calculations here. Let's change pens as well because this one's staining. Right, so I've got, let's do this a different way. So 3 sides is angle 120. Okay, or I could swap those round, or angle 90 is 4 sides. How many what's the angle for 5 sides again? If we go back to our previous lessons, we look at pentagon, had an external angle of 72. That was 5 sides, and so on and so on. So how did we get 360 from this? Right, well, there's 2 ways of knowing this. Well, you could just go, well, 360 is a circle, and that's how the maximum amount of sides that you can get. That's how many degrees you have in a circle. But, or you could go, okay, well, let's calculate this a different way. So if there are 120 angles in 3 sides, so if we go 120 times 3, what does that give us? If we give 90 times 4, what does that give us? 72 times 5, what does that give us? All of them come to 360. Okay, and then you can work that out the other way. If we go, if we know what a value is, say S, not 5. This one's a 5. This one's an S. So if we know what our sides are, we know that our value here is going to be 360, and we need to go something times sides is 360. Okay, something times sides is 360. So we can then go, so we've just calculated something, something times sides equals 360. I'm sure you've done this in algebra before. How do you get this on the other side? Right, well, we go, okay, I know how, if we know how much our sides are, we can say angle, because this is what the angle is. Okay, angle equals sides, sorry, other way around, because if we divide on both sides here, 360 divided by sides. Okay, so if we've got angle equals 360 divided by sides, that is how we can calculate it. So in Python, we can write in, let me change the view back to the screen. So in Python, we can write in angle, just put this in front of me, angle equals 360 divided by, in Python we need to use the / sign, divided by sides. Okay, so that's the where we've gone. Let's go back to today's lesson. So angle equal, that's the equation that we've created there. Angle equals 360 divided by sides. Okay, and then where it says change your program, or the original one, so that a complete shape is always drawn no matter how many sides the user asks for. How do we change that now? So where is angle being used in this loop here? Well, we can have a look. It's being used at this point here. Whenever we turn right, that is when the angle is being used. So we can just replace it here, angle. Okay, that has, we already know how many sides there are because the user's given us that. The angle is 360 degrees divided by the amount of sides, and then we can just change this value here. So if I run this piece of code, how many sides would you like? I'll say 5. What color would you like? Blue this time. We've created a pentagon. If I run it again, how many sides would you like? I don't know, 7. There we go. What color would you like? Orange. We've got an orange shape this time, and it's a 7-sided shape. So you can see 360 divided by sides. That's really useful because we don't have to then kind of write in or change the angle each time because we know how to calculate the angle. And again, this has made our code much more efficient. We don't have to keep telling it how many sides the shape has. We can just calculate it ourselves. Okay, and you can do this for any shape that you want to draw, any equilateral shape, that is. So if we wanted to do a shape that was maybe not 100 because that's going to take a while to draw, 20 sides, for example. And let's say green again. Okay, this is a 20-sided shape. It looks almost like a circle, and if I had the full Trinket up, not Trinket, if I had full Python up, then you'd be able to see the whole thing, but you can see it's just gone down at the bottom there, unfortunately. Okay, so with that in mind, this is it asks you to write a program to create this shape. It is possible to do in only a few lines of code. Okay, ignore part B for the time being, but we've got our triangle. How many sides does that have? That has 3 sides, and it goes all the way up to, I think it's about 11 sides, something like that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I've lost count. Can't really see from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sorry, it's 13 sides this goes up to. So again, we're drawing 10 different shapes, but there are 13 different values there. So there are different ways of doing this, but you should be able to use a loop to be able to do this. And again, it would probably be a loop inside a loop, like we did last week, where we drew this square over and over again, where, in fact, I'll bring that code up for you if I can. In fact, I'm going to write that code for you. I'm going to just quickly duplicate this so that you can see what I'm talking about. Going to remind you how we did this. So for x in range, well, I've got to remember to import turtle. Got to spell it right as well. For x in range, and I'm going to say 10. So I'm creating 10 squares here. I'm going to say I'm creating a square. So I'm going to say for y in range. Don't forget here I've got 2 different values, so I don't want them to be the same. Oops. For y in range 4 forward, and oops, so not just forward. I need turtle dot forward, and then again I've spelled turtle wrong. My goodness, it's because I'm trying to rush and because I'm not looking at the screen properly because it's on my side. Turtle dot forward, and then I'm going x times 10, and then turtle dot right 90. Okay, so this was the code from last time where I'm drawing my boxes over and over again. Now, you should be able to use this kind of idea and this kind of idea. You probably don't need to ask the user how many sides they'd like each time, because you're going to be telling Python what the smallest values, how many sides is going to be each time. So it's 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, then 8, then 9, and then 10 up to 13. So you might need to add something else in this line here, but I want you to have a go. This looks really complicated, but it's actually not as complicated as it looks. Okay, if you manage to do that, then have a go at part B as well. If having an if statement involved as well. If they enter square, it should draw a square. If they ask for a triangle, it'll draw a triangle. If they ask for something that doesn't exist, then you need to tell them to try again because they've not typed in a correct value. Okay, so again, have a go at that. I will give you a few more minutes to have a go, and we'll see how far we get there. And let me know in the chat if there's anything extra, if you're having real trouble with this, if you're not really sure where to start or anything like that, or but don't forget to kind of use these two ideas here that we've got, where we've got our loop inside a loop, and we've got our angle equals 360 divided by sides. Make sure you include that in there somewhere, because that is really, really useful. Okay, you might end up using a different word instead of sides, but or change the value here. Instead of saying x, you might want to call it something different. And that's all of the help I'm going to give you for the time being. I want to see how much you can do on your own. So again, I'll play another song and see how you're doing. All right. So try and have a go at it yourself. If you think about again how, so the angle is calculated, but you can tell it how many sides you want by, and the value of sides is going to be changing each time. So this loop inside a loop, you might want to say this here is your value of sides. Okay, so again, that's the last of the help I'm giving you. Have a go at trying that, and I'll play one more song and see where you're going. Okay, so I can see a few of you struggling here. Now, this is really easy once you have worked it out. So first thing I'm going to do is run through it and try and draw a triangle and then a square and then a pentagon and then a hexagon, etc. And I'm just going to write that bit of code out. So I'm going to add that in. I'm going to create a new thing here. So import turtle. So how do you create a triangle, then a square, so how would we do that? So we draw a triangle. So for x in range 3, because we're drawing a triangle, we're going to say, what is it again? Turtle dot forward, might just say 50. Oops, not 5, 50. And then turtle dot right, and then how many sides? How do we calculate the amount of sides it's got? Well, its angle is 360 divided by sides. So we know here that the sides is 3. So we can just say 360 divided by 3. Okay. Can you see that? So, or we could say sides equals 3 for x in range sides, and change this to sides here again. Okay. So that's how we draw a triangle. And then if we do the same thing again, copy that, paste it in again, but instead of sides equals 3, I can say sides equals 4. And I can paste it in again. Sides equals 5. Paste it in again. Sides equals 6. Now hopefully you'll be able to see that this is, I'm drawing the exact same shape. I haven't completed it yet because I've only gone up to 6. But hopefully you can see that this is the beginning of the shape that we're trying to draw. And hopefully you can see that I'm not being very efficient here. I've completed this bit. I've written the same bit of code 4 times here, and I haven't even completed the entire shape that I wanted to draw. I would need to do it I would need to do it 10 times for this to work. So hopefully you kind of have worked out by now that this is the only thing that's changing. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So if I move this here, get rid of all of that, and instead of putting sides equals 3, I can say for sides in range, and I can say 3 to 13, or I can say 10, and then say sides equals sides plus 3. That's the other way of doing it. And then I just tab in so that I've got that value, and then you can see now that I've got my my shapes here. You could do your angle equals, oh, I didn't mean to even write that in like that, but could do your angle equals 360 degrees divided by sides and not have angle equals, or just put angle there. And you could do this at 3 to 13, because if it starts at 3 and ends at the 13th value, yeah, or doesn't include 13, 1, 2, 3, or we didn't have the final one, so this should go up to 14, shouldn't it? So 360 divided by sides, that's another way of doing it. Again, it's exactly the same. You just also just turn off the animation there, because it just takes a lot of time to do it otherwise. So turtle.speed 0 makes that run just that little bit faster, and it's just been cut off at the bottom there by Trinket, but you can see that this is exactly the same shape, the same thing that we created a moment ago that we wanted to create here. Now, task B says get the program to ask the user what shape to draw. If they enter square, it should draw a square, etc. So again, new tab for this, and instead of creating a loop, I'm going to use the idea that I had here. So instead of saying how many sides would you like, I want to actually type in, I want it to ask what shape would you like. So same idea as before. I'm asking for an input, what shape would you like, and then depending on which shape they ask for is going to change the amount of sides that you're looking at, okay? And then it will draw your shape for you. So have a quick go at that. I'm going to give you only a couple of minutes because I know we're very close to the end of the lesson, and then I'll quickly explain how that works, okay? Let me just find a nice medium length song. That'll do. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to get your program to ask the user what shape they want to draw. So if I go into a brand new Trinket, make sure I import turtle, and then so I'm asking the user what shape they want to draw. How do I do that? Well, I might say sides, actually no, not even sides, shape equals inputs, and I ask the user, what shape would you like to draw? And then if shape equals, don't forget your double equals because we're comparing at this point. If shape equals triangle, then I don't need to draw the triangle at this point. I can just say my sides, sides equals 3. Else, elif, shape is equal to square. Then my sides is equal to 4, and then elif shape is equal to pentagon. Then sides is equal to 5, and then so on and so on. You could even add in an else, print, you haven't drawn a, you haven't said a valid shape. Okay, and then I might just set the amount of sides here just so that we don't get an error. Sides equals 3. Okay, then I'm going to create my loop to create the shape itself. So for x in range, sides, turtle dot forward, so I'm going to say drawing a triangle instead. Okay, turtle dot forward, and then maybe 50, and then turtle dot right, side. Don't forget our sides, or even we could even add it here. Angle equals sides. Other way around. I keep forgetting which way around this goes. 360 divided by sides. Okay. Turtle dot right equal, and then we're just going to put in angle here. Okay. So hopefully this should work. I might have missed a couple of syntax errors there, but what shape would you like to draw? I don't know, triangle. Okay, and it draws me a triangle. Okay, then if I run it again, what shape would you like to draw? I don't know, how about a square? Okay, and then I press enter, draws me a square. If I run it again, what shape would you like to draw? Pentagon. And then press enter, it should draw me a pentagon. And then at the moment I haven't been able to add in a hexagon, but if I add in a shape that doesn't exist, you haven't said a valid shape, drawing a triangle instead. Okay. Python Turtle is not part of the GCSE course, but it is hopefully getting you to think about some of the different ideas that are part of the GCSE course. So our if statements, using variables, using loops inside loops, all of those things are part of the GCSE course. Now, the GCSE course, you don't even have to learn Python, but you do have to learn a programming language. Python is just the language we've decided to teach you, and Python Turtle is one of the ways that it's useful to help you learn. Okay, so hopefully that was that answered your question there. So I've got this here. Obviously I could keep adding here, elif shape equals hexagon, then sides equals 6. And now I could also make sure that whatever the user types in is in lowercase. If I was to type in hexagon in all uppercase, oops, again I've written in the wrong side, hexagon, it says you haven't said a valid shape, even though I've typed in a word that is correct. So I'm just going to put here dot lower and then brackets. Don't forget our string manipulation. Dot lower, open close brackets, will turn a value into lowercase. So if I run that, what shape would you like to draw? Hexagon. It still does it even though I've not typed it the right format. Does that make sense? Okay. So that is it for today's lesson. We've just done an hour's worth of work. So well done to all of you who managed to keep up, and well done to all of you who managed to have a go as well and didn't give up. So again, I will see you on Friday. We'll be continuing on with our theory lesson. If you have any work that you want to send me, any of your code from this lesson, absolutely send that to me via Show My Homework so that I can see what you've got done, and then I can give you an extra point as well based on what you sent to me. Okay, I will see you Friday. Have a good couple of days. Bye.